Hey, welcome to another album review, and today I actually have another YouTube recommendation because I guess, ever since I heard that Age of Aquarius album, YouTube was like, oh, you like that one? Yeah, we recommended that one to you multiple times, so we're just gonna keep throwing albums that you like that. And today we have one that I've seen a few times in my recommended over the years, and this is Nick Johnston, Remarkably Human. Which is essentially in the I find it really funny because all of these albums got recommended to me and they're all very similar in the vibe that they give. So essentially, this album is pretty much like yesterday. It's sort of like this proggy type. It's more rock than metal, I would say, right? But it's very like essentially, it gave me a lot of Pliny vibes. Really a lot of Pliny vibes, however not as like modern. I felt that in a way it was actually like older vibes, you know what I mean, of like older artists. There were some points that I was actually I was thinking about like Steve Vai and those virtuosos, guitar virtuosos, that type of music, you know what I mean. Now yesterday I kind of like hammered on about the, I guess, lack of narrative, if you will. That was a huge thing that I was like, oh, like I wish it had a little bit more narrative, and today this album actually has way more narrative, but it lacks the coolness that yesterday's album actually had. So yeah, I would say like Four Giants and Nick Johnston are pretty much, at least these two albums that I've heard, are kind of like missing the other thing that the other one has, right? Like, not saying they're not bad, or not saying they're not good, rather, right? I'm not saying they're bad or anything like that. I'm just saying, like, they have the thing that the other one requires to be, like, really amazing, right? So while this album today does have the narrative, it's sort of lacking the cool sounds. As you'd expect, this is an entirely instrumental album, and a very good one at that. Like, I really enjoyed especially a lot of the progression of the songs, right? Like, again, contrary to yesterday, it did feel like a story was actually being told, right? However, with that being said, it just didn't sound as good. Like, again, to me, I got a lot of Pliny vibes, but without that, I think it's hard to explain. I don't know. Pliny just sounds way more clean, I think. And I think in a way, he also likes... Like, I feel that it doesn't, like, tend to... Fuck, how do I explain this? Like, with Pliny, it feels like he chooses his instruments very carefully, with, like, in the sense of what's playing in that specific moment, you know what I mean? Like, it never feels like the audio is too full, or when it is, like when all of the instruments are going on at the same time, there's a reason for it, right, in the song. Here, you don't really have a lot of moments like that, so it ends up, like, sounding, not as good, I would say, definitely. Not that it sounds bad, but it definitely doesn't sound like that unique, or it doesn't have that unique vibe, right? Honestly, if you were to grab the narrative of today with the sounds of yesterday's album, the You Are the Universe album, I think it would create like an amazing fucking album, right? Because yesterday's sounds were really nice, I really fucking loved, especially these sort of... Like, it was sort of this genty vibe to it, right? This sort of genty prog rock / prog metal vibe to it. Today, it's more like prog rock, generally speaking. It doesn't have any, like, vibe per se, and I think that's something that I see some artists sort of do, is they seem to want to, like, stick to a genre, right? To them it's more important to stick to a genre so they're recognizable, as opposed of maybe like treading the line. And like, I have nothing against artists that tend to stick to a genre. My problem is more, I think that sometimes that ends up like, it ends up just worsening, or not worsening, but maybe limiting how good your work can actually be, because I feel that genres aren't genres are guidelines in a way, right? They're suggestions. They're there to sort of like, hey, if you want to like do stuff that sounds like this, you can do this, right? But they're not there to like be rules that you have to follow, and if you don't follow, it's bad, right? They're just suggestions, and as with every suggestion, you can break it down and you can do whatever the fuck you want with it, right? So in a way, I kind of wish that's what a lot of artists did, because as much as I recognize that, this album is a lot of like, especially more, I wouldn't say it's so much math rock, I would say there's more on the side of prog rock more than anything. At the same time, it doesn't sound unique, like when I go to Opeth, for example, right, with their prog rock album, especially Pale Communion, it's something unique, right? Prog wise, it's something unique. It's something that you go, oh shit, I never really like heard that before, you know what I mean? Like, it's something that you sit there and you go, that's fucking good, actually, hold up. Like, I've never heard, I know all of a sudden I'm interested in this, right? And here, pretty much like yesterday, while it was a nice listen, I never like got to the point where I was like, oh, this actually sounds so fucking amazing, I need to like listen to this again, and I need to like actually fucking be so in that, you know what I mean? Like, in a way, this is no Age of Aquarius, right? Like, that album I heard and I was like, holy shit, actually, no, hold up, this is fucking amazing, right? Like, even if I had perhaps, or even if I was a little bit too harsh with it, whatever. But here, I don't, like, with these two albums, I find it really funny because they both suffer from like the same thing with me, where it's like, as good as yesterday's album and today's album is, I just don't like, like, there's something missing there that grabs the album from, hey, it sounds really good and it's interesting, to, oh shit, like, this is amazing and I need to listen to it again, right? Because, like, in a way, I heard it and I'm like, well, now I'm satisfied, and I'm like, okay, now I'm gonna move on, rather than just being, no, actually, I need to listen to this again, right? Like, I need to listen to this like 2, 3, 4 more times, and I really want to do that, right? I feel that these two albums specifically are missing that. Today's album, I would say it's more competent, definitely, and again, like, it's not that it sounds bad, but it's just the sound to me, it sounds a bit too generic, I guess it's the right word. Like, I think that if you've ever heard like math rock or prog rock, or around the genre, I would say, right, I think you've heard these sounds before, like, you've definitely heard these sounds before, you know what I mean? Like, it's nothing like new, it's nothing that you go, oh shit, okay, that's really cool, like, it's nothing, it's just, yeah, it's fine, it's good, but again, it's also like hard for me to say what they could do better in terms of the sounds, because it's like, these are the typical songs of prog rock, so what should they do? Just change them? I mean, like, it sounds very it's a bit hard to like suggest, I guess, what I would have loved for it to do. I think that sometimes something that happens with music is, as much as I don't vibe with things, it's just hard to say what they could do better, because sometimes it feels like they're not doing anything wrong, right? And I think that this album is very, and then, in parallel, yesterday's album, I think these two albums have that a lot, where it's like, I didn't feel like they did anything wrong, I just, like, there was something there that could have been better, and it's not, right? Like, I just don't feel it's better, and that's kind of the issue that I have, and what I would have loved to for it to do better, right? But it's just like, I don't know, like, it's very hard because it's not doing anything wrong. It's it's not like, oh, I didn't like the sound here, or I didn't like the sound there. It's literally just, oh, I liked it, but I didn't like it as much as I thought I was gonna like it, or as much as I should have liked it, right? And it's like, okay, why? It's kind of hard to like pinpoint that, right? To me, they're just missing that little something, that spice, that uniqueness to them, right? Which is kind of hard to describe, but, well, like, when you hear it, right? When you hear bands that sort of have stuff that is just super out there in terms of like how unique it is and how interesting it is, you definitely have that, like, that spice, you know what I mean? Like, Opeth, for example, was one of those bands for me, where it's like, I heard it and I was like, oh, I see why people fucking love them, like, I get it, I want to listen to more of them, right? So, yeah, I feel that with these two, it's definitely nice to listen to, I'm definitely satisfied after listening to it, but I would say it's not I need to listen to this right after I'm done. No, it's more of a, yeah, I'm satisfied, I'm gonna move on to the next thing now, right? And again, nothing wrong with that, I just kind of like expected more, I guess, but I mean, that's also my fault, because you can find masterpieces every day, I guess, or you can find music that you're going to connect with every day to a deep level, so I guess that's fine. But yes, in terms of my vibe meter, honestly, to parallel yesterday, I'm feeling an 8 out of 10 as well, so I think that these two albums are very parallel. But yeah, I mean, again, like, an 8 out of 10 is really good, there's albums that I've enjoyed more that I've given less, in a way, right? So It's just that I'm not saying that these albums are bad. I'm just saying like that they're missing that little thing in them. You know what I mean? Like these albums just missing that little thing to it that I think would just elevate it. You know what I mean? And just in a way make it really remarkable, right? So yeah. But that's it for this album review, and I'll see you tomorrow with a new one.